Does your metal detector sometimes just go crazy at times with chatter noise? Well, there could be a valid explanation for this, and it's called electromagnetic interference, or EMI for short. So I'm going to explain what EMI is, what causes it, and what to do when you experience this phenomenon. Because there's nothing worse than wanting to go detect a patch of land, but your detector is just not being stable, and instead is constantly giving off chatter noises, which might make you think, is there something wrong with my machine? Well, in most cases, there's nothing wrong. And your metal detector, which is a highly sensitive piece of electronic equipment, may just be getting electronic interference from another source. So what are these sources? Some common sources of interference comes from things like overhead electric power lines, cell phone signals, Wi-Fi signals. You might be close to an electric fence, a thunderstorm might be nearby, train lines, or even just from another metal detector that's operating close to you. So when this happens, there are a few things that you can do to try and eliminate the EMI. Firstly, on nearly all models of metal detectors, there's a function for sensitivity adjustment. Reduce the sensitivity until the machine becomes more workable. If you're in a very bad spot with very high EMI, you may have to reduce the sensitivity quite a bit. And even then, you may still hear some EMI chatter. But at least then you can identify a proper signal versus the EMI chatter that you're hearing. Bear in mind, reducing the sensitivity of the machine will reduce the amount of depth that your detector can find targets. But it's still better to get less depth than not to be able to search the area at all. So that's why the sensitivity function is there. Don't be scared to play around with it. Obviously, you always want to run it as high as possible in order to get the most amount of depth. But you also need to get the machine stable. So there's always that trade-off when adjusting the sensitivity. Secondly, some metal detectors, especially the mid to higher end detectors, they have a feature that's called frequency shift or noise cancel. So this feature is for exactly this reason, to help eliminate the EMI. Now every machine is different, so on some detectors you may be able to manually shift the frequency, where it'll give you a few different frequency adjustment options that you can make to try and find the best one to use for that scenario you're in. And some other detectors just have a feature whereby it'll just take one button press and it'll do an automatic scan, and it'll find the EMI and then automatically assign the best frequency adjustment for that area. So since every detector is different, it'll be best to consult your manual to see which function your detector has to help eliminate the EMI. And the other things you can try is to check if the source of the EMI is actually something that you have control over. So for example, if you're out in an area where there's poor cell phone reception, your phone may be constantly trying to send and receive signals from a cell phone tower, which in turn is causing the EMI. Try switching your cell phone off and see if that helps. Or perhaps you're even just detecting too close to someone else with another metal detector, and the two detectors are interfering with each other, in which case you simply need to move further away from that person. Also, some search coils, they also handle EMI much better than others. For example, a small concentric coil should pick up less interference than a bigger double D coil. So if you're going to an area which is known to have high EMI, then carefully select which coil to use before you head out. Lastly, if you have tried everything we have mentioned and still not getting any joy, then sometimes you have to just realize that an area is just not workable and you have to move to another location that has less EMI. It's also worth mentioning that every metal detector is different, so your metal detector may handle EMI very differently to another metal detector. So don't assume there's something wrong with yours just because it chatters more than your friend's detector. Anyway, I hope this gives you a better understanding on EMI and helps in getting you that one step closer to knowing how to use your detector better.